Yo, it's Gen X. Sometimes in my life, the struggle gets hard and the pressure is intense. But I just make a sacrifice and try and do things right. You see, I'll never go against what I believe, because I remember Mama did tell me.
My name is Cassio Anthony by birth. I got the name Gen X. It used to be spelled Gen-X, which means Generation X. As the scientists class this generation as X, meaning X no good, X void. But now it's the same pronunciation, but when I became a Christian, I added the E to the X. So now it's Gen-Ex, which means X out of, no longer, not, as I say, a waste of time or useless. So I grew up in a village deep south Trinidad called Irene, Palaseco to be exact. And like most people, grew up in a broken home, you know, a home that was filled with frustration and hate and, you know, strife, confusion. And my mother and I never got along because of, you know, she told me who my father was when I was about 9 years, my real father. And the stories that followed, I hated him. I wanted nothing to do with this man called father. But I would see how the young people in school and stuff would respond to their dads, and, you know, they seemed to be happy whenever the father come for them. So I said, you know what? My father used to try to reach out, but I didn't want him to. I didn't reach back. So I said, let me try this daddy thing and see how it work out, you know. So one morning, he offered me a ride to school and I accepted. And I realized, hey, that morning he gave me $100. I was like, what? So he gave me full respect, you know, and I said, let me try this daddy thing. And I did. It was working out really good. You know, me and him, we got really close, rolling right through, picking him up, dropping him at the school, pick him up after school, dropping him home, and taking him to his home. We liming together. But then one morning, some years after, they came and told me that him and my grandmother, which is his mother, was arguing. And they told me, you know, your father ended it by taking her life.
The ghetto youths them haunted. What we need to do is hold their hands and pray. Oh yeah. The ghetto youths them nervous. All we need to do is hold their hands and say.
Before I said I hated him, but now I didn't just hate him alone. I hated anything that moved. Anger, rage consumed me, you know. And from there it was a downhill journey of just acting out, lashing out, ignorance, you know. Even my own mother, who tried to guide me, you know, I started to rebel against her. You know, I almost followed in my father's footsteps as well, you know. And
what, to kill your mother?
Yeah. It started with me just stooping, you know, swelling my face, as they would say, you know, answering back. And then it reached to where I would hit her. I started to pelt her with stuff, caused my mother blood to run. And then it started with war, me and my mother on war, you know. And at the end of the day, that is what happened. That's how I reacted to, you know, hearing what my father had done and being hurt. That's the only way I thought.
You followed on along a path of crime, and homelessness, didn't you?
Yeah.
It didn't get you anywhere. Tell me about your days of being homeless.
Well, after my mother and I couldn't get along, an event took place and she told me that I had to, if I stayed here, she said I would kill one of them or one of them will kill me. And by them, she meant my bigger brother, who was always upset with the way I treated mommy and all of that. Even my sister was angry at me. So she said I had to pack my things and leave. And I was only 15 at that time. And I thought to myself, you know what? I'm a man. I am a plain man. And I packed my stuff, ended up in the streets of Port of Spain, because I always heard that's where the bright lights were. Easy life. But it wasn't easy for me when I got there. I met a bench. And up there with my bags and a bench, the reality to survive, the struggle to survive kick in. This man, complete stranger to me, he saved my life. God used him to save my life, you know. And while I was in the station there, he said to me, you guys need to stop shedding all this blood. He started to talk about Jesus, and he started telling me about his faith. He said that, boy, you need to stop shedding blood, because Jesus shed all the blood that needs to be shedded. And I'm like, what's going on with this man? But I'm listening. And then he took me to the back and he opened the door and he said, run, I'll watch your back. And for the first time, I believe someone, you know. I've heard it all my life from friends and brethren on the block, you know, higher back. But when I'm in a difficult situation, none of them never really showed up. And even though they showed up, they could never really help, you know. And for once in my life, I actually believed. And I know now that was the voice of God, you know. And from then I began to make some changes, you know.
That's excellent. And you became Gen X,
yeah.
the gospel singer,
yeah.
and Gen X the motivational speaker, and Gen X the evangelist.
The evangelist, yeah.
The evangelist as well. This new phase, this new chapter of your life involves working with a lot of young people and mentoring them through your organization. Right, tell me about the organization and the young people you work with.
Yeah, well, the organization is called Gospel on the Go International. That's Gospel on capital D, Go International. And what happened is when I became a Christian, which was about this month, October, next week we'll make it 4 years, I became a Christian. And but 2 months after that, I went to the streets where I used to hang out on Lime and just tell guys my story, say, guys, I out now. And they would be like, wow, out for a little while, I hear better than you talk, that church thing. And, you know, they challenge me, and I like a challenge, you know. So what happened was I eventually started to share my story with them and tell them of my experience. And some of them listened. And while they were listening, you know, I could see on their faces they were really paying attention. And then they asked me when I was leaving to come back. They always wanted me to come back. And that's how it started. It started with about 7, 8 guys in a pavilion. And in a matter of 4 months or less, this pavilion was filled with people. Almost over 60, 70 people were sitting there to hear me share my story, you know. And we started, and at the end of the day, we decided to go out into communities and be the change that we wanted to see. Not just sit down and talk. We decided to go out. Let's go help people. Let's go show people what we're about. Instead of trying to explain to them by talking, let's go live the life we're telling people that we ought to live. And we went out there, and this mother that I told you about, she became a Christian before me. That's why she prayed for me a lot. And today, she's the woman that works with me, heading this organization. And she has a label called Harvest Time. And we go out, we help the less fortunate. We help little children. My wife teaches a lot of little children from the community. I go to majority of all the hotspots in Trinidad and Tobago I've been to do motivational speeches, to share the gospel of Jesus Christ, you know, to counsel, you know, because now I received my certificate in counseling, you know, being expelled from school, not being able to read and write. Today, I'm a teacher, you know, I'm pursuing a degree. So if God could do it for me, that's how I know I'm never going to give up, because I know where I was. You know, some people giving up and say, I don't think them could change. I know where I was, and I was at the point where I thought nothing could bring me back. And here I am today. So that is basically it. You know, I really want to see that change take place, and that's what the organization Gospel on the Go. And these young people that you're seeing with me, they are the ones that they are still here today.
Tell me about your now you have taken on the role of what, planter, farmer. You guys are farmers.
Yes.
And
yes.
you plant. Tell me about what you plant.
Well,
and why farming? Farming is hard work.
Well, not hard, I know. I used to think it was hard until I started. It's smart work. It's not hard, because how hard? I mean, you come up here, spend 2 hours for the day. You can go home and relax, you know what I mean? Basically, I heard God say agriculture in January. Some people laugh it off, but I stayed with it. Agriculture. Because when I got into research, I realized agriculture is a dying trade. A lot of people, young people, say not planting, you know, and it's good. And I mean good. It's good that some of the rich people who got rich off of agriculture, they're sending their children to good schools. So now the child don't want to take up that trade because it's who's engineer, doctor, which is good. So I'm realizing, well, then who is it's going to be these old people. They're getting older, and then eventually what is going to go on with the, you know, farming. So I realized that, listen, I'm young, all of us young people here, hey, let's obey God. And we started. We put down 1,000 pimentos, then we put down 1,000. That's how we going, by thousands, you know. And I'm realizing that the young people coming back with remarks like this. They say in Gen X, I really like this thing, you know, boy. This thing had me thinking real straight. I just be studying this thing in the night when I lie down. I could sleep easy. I said, but wait, I thought this would have been just about a boy making a little money when we sell. But this thing is therapeutic. So while I'm realizing this now, I expand in the garden even more for more young people to come in. And the testimonies is amazing.
Yeah. You see, I know about going to sleep at night with nothing to eat. I know about living on less than $20 a week. But listen, God has a plan for your life. He will never leave your side. Just trust Him. Gen X say that. God bless you. Full on, Gen.